What's up, everybody? It's me, Johnny, here with my immediate reactions to UFC 310. The podcast is going to be tomorrow, by the way, so you're going to be able to see Rob's reactions to all the fights. But in the meantime, I wanted to upload my immediate thoughts. I hope you'll like this video. If you do, please like, subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But of course, we've got to start off with the main event. Alexandre Pantoja submits Kai Asakura in the second round via rear naked choke to successfully defend his flyweight title. He gets it done, right? And it's exactly how I said it would go in my predictions video. Yes, Kai Asakura had a lot of stock coming from Japan, from Ryzen. He was the bantamweight champion there. Prolific knockout artist, 13 knockout wins, right? He is very, very good, but Pantoja is just on another level. He is just world class, and his grappling and submission game, especially in that division, is second to none. Kai did well, decently well in the first round, even though I still believe Pantoja won that first round. But in the second round, he didn't have an answer to Pantoja's wrestling. He didn't have an answer to Pantoja's grappling and his submission. He tapped out, and he lost the fight. That's as simple as it was. Pantoja didn't even need to take him into deep waters into 5 rounds and utilize his significant durability and cardio and everything. He got it done pretty quickly because his grappling game, his submission game is just that good. And Kai Asakura, in all honesty, yes, a lot of people were excited to see him fight. I was excited to see him fight and see how he would do in the UFC. But that fight went as we all should have expected it to go, right? Pantoja is just that good. His submission game is just that good. And Kai Asakura couldn't get the job done. But I do want to give him a bit of respect because, again, he looked decent in that first round. Pantoja started very aggressively, as we expected. He caught Kai with a big left and then went for that takedown immediately, going for his biggest strength, especially against a striker like Kai Asakura, went for that takedown. But Kai got up, threw a Superman punch, big right, inside a low kick, knees. Again, those knees, he has such good knees, man. It's actually insane. As we know in Ryzen, he's knocked out or TKO'd several people with those knees. And he got a couple of nice knees to Pantoja. But Pantoja, bro, he's just that durable. His chin is granite. His body is made of stone. He didn't care. He eats everyone's strikes. Steve Erceg, Royval, Moreno, Kai Asakura, it doesn't matter. This guy takes everything. Yes, Kai Asakura was very fast. Yes, he had heavy hands. Yes, he had a lot of power. Landed a nice left in there as well. A nice high kick as well. But Pantoja was still willing to stay in there and trade, right? Himself, he got a nice inside low kick. Big knee to the head. Like, Pantoja was throwing his own knees as well. Nasty body kick, nasty big right. And overall, it was like 31 to 15 significant strikes to Pantoja's favor. Plus the takedowns as well. Pantoja clearly won that first round. Yes, Kai Asakura was there. It was competitive, but Pantoja won 10-9. But of course, we go to the second round, right? Kai Asakura cracked Pantoja, but he didn't care. He moved forward and masterfully jumped onto Asakura's back. That thing was beautiful. I could watch it time and time again. Got into the back, body triangle, and submits Kai with a rear naked choke. Kai just couldn't get out of it. He taps out, and Pantoja is still your flyweight champion. And what does he do? What else does he do in this bloody division? He's got a few choices. He called out DJ. I don't think Mighty Mouse is going to come back. Apparently, Mighty tweeted out and he said, I was offered $2 million to still fight and won, and I turned it down, and he just wants to do YouTube. He just wants to retire. And technically, he might still be in a contract with ONE and still have a few fights left on his contract. So ONE would have to allow him to go to the UFC. And that's if DJ actually wanted to go fight in the UFC and fight Pantoja. I don't think it's going to happen. There are too many complications, too many hurdles to get over. And DJ's like 38, right? And by the time they fight, he could be 39. I don't know when exactly his birthday is. I just don't think that fight's going to happen. It's a great call out, mind you. And I would love to see Pantoja versus DJ. It'd be freaking awesome. It's like I wouldn't quite say that Pantoja is at that GOAT status in the flyweight division, but you could market it as GOAT versus GOAT. I think there's every chance that you could do that and it would be very marketable. It would probably sell very well, especially because in recent times, especially, DJ's stock has gone way up, more so than what it was in the UFC itself, because he was definitely disrespected there. Kept fighting, but wasn't paid what he was worth. But anyways, I don't think that fight is going to happen. So in all likelihood, either Pantoja, it seems like he does want to stay in the division, and kudos to him. He doesn't want to move up and try fight for a double belt, which has annoyed some people as of late in other divisions. But either he fights Kai Kara France, or he moves up, right? In my mind, there's no other options because he's beaten Moreno, he beat Royval twice. Like, who else is there for him to fight? It has to be either Kai Kara-France or he moves out to fight for the double belt. And in all honesty, if there was anyone that deserved it, as I mentioned in my previous video, if there's anyone that has deserved it, it's Pantoja. Kai Asakura fight aside, he deserved it before and he absolutely deserves it now. So they've got to put something together. How does Pantoja do against the likes of, it depends who's the champion at that stage, right? It could be Umar, it could be Merab. I think it'd be a very competitive fight against either of them. But I'm very intrigued to see, because Pantoja, he's walked through most of the people in this division. What is there for him to do left at flyweight? I reckon he should move up. But let's see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And then in the co-main, Shavkat Rakhmonov defeats Ian Garry by unanimous decision. Shavkat, he's still undefeated. He keeps his 0. Ian does not. But I tell you what, after this fight, for me, Ian Garry walked away with a lot of stock. I think you got to respect him for what he was able to do against Shavkat with short notice. Like, technically, both of them were still training. Both of them fought at short notice, but Ian Garry moved up his fight because he was meant to fight Joaquin Buckley the week after. And he took on the Boogeyman, and he took on a very different fight. Like, you've got to give him respect for it, and you've got to give him respect for how he did, because it was a close fight, 2 to 3 rounds, right? Like, it came down to, in particular, it definitely came down to the 4th round. Once Shavkat secured that 4th round, Ian Garry knew that in the 5th, he needed to get a finish to be able to win that fight. He ended up winning the 5th, but it wasn't enough. But it was such a close fight in the end, 48 to 47. But I just thought Ian Garry, like, he went up in my books. And even though he might rub you the wrong way with how he acts and what he says, etc., he did well against Shavkat, and he stifled a lot of Shavkat's offense. He couldn't get the takedowns. He couldn't work his way to a submission like he likes to do. If anything, Ian Garry was closer to submitting Shavkat, not the other way around. But let's break down this fight round by round. I keep blabbling on. Round 1 was a very, 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 very low output round. To be honest, the first couple of rounds were very low output, and some people said it was boring. In my mind, this was one of those situations where it was an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like 2 very high-skilled fighters that just clash in... It wasn't the best stylistic fight. Let's just put it that way. But low output round, Shavkat was clinching a lot against the cage with Ian. Ian was doing very well to stay standing. I'm sure if Shavkat wanted to take... he would have liked to have taken it to the ground and, again, work into that submission, that rear naked choke that we've seen many times. But Ian just wouldn't let it happen. He wouldn't be taken down. He stood standing. His balance was very, very good. So Shavkat just kind of stayed in the clinch position. Ian did try to reverse it, did try to take down Shavkat, but not too much happened. And then Shavkat ended the round with a big right. So he had a big right at the end, had more control, 10-9 to Shavkat in the first round. Second round, Ian was doing well at the beginning, keeping his distance, jabbing, sticking and moving, the low kicks and the oblique kicks. Especially as the fight went on, Ian was doing very well with his distance management. And maybe that's why Shavkat was not willing to engage in the striking like he did against Jeff Neal, for instance. He respected the distance game of Ian and how Ian was able to work at range and just, jab and throw pot shots, especially those low kicks and the oblique kicks. In my mind, that was probably why Shavkat wasn't willing to trade with Ian and wanted to go up close and work in with the clinch. That's my breakdown of it. I don't know. But again, Shavkat still managed to get through some right hands, so he wasn't completely lacking offense in the second round. And then Ian in the clinch threw a knee, but then Shavkat reversed it, and again, Ian kept stopping the takedowns. Shavkat did land a nice spinning back fist and a left. That was a nice little sequence there. But to be honest, it was another low output round. It was 9 to 10 significant strikes, in fact, in Ian's favor. But in my mind, Shavkat's strikes were more damaging, and he had more control, obviously. We're going to get into a whole discussion, by the way, in the Aljamain fight with Movsar against control and damage and how to actually judge fights. But I thought it was clear in the second round that Shavkat won that. But then in the third round, this was Ian's round. They definitely picked up the pace, which was nice to see. Both of them were throwing a bit more. But again, it was Ian that was working the nice low kicks, landed a nice high kick. He just kept working that distance game beautifully. They did get back to the clinch and the ref separated them. Good call. I think it was Goddard that did that because they weren't doing anything in the clinch, and eventually, it started to annoy me, to be honest. So they were separated, but then again, from that distance, Ian was throwing the nice oblique kicks, the nice high kicks, the jabs, but Shavkat was also landing as well. So competitive round, 14 to 11 significant strikes in Ian's favor, but I would have given the third round to Ian Garry. In the fourth round, this was a Shavkat round for me. Ian was working nicely in the distance in the beginning, but Shavkat finally got the takedown. Finally, he was in full guard, throwing strikes. Ian was trying to get up, but Shavkat ended the round with a double leg and some ground and pound. So this round, in my mind, did go to Shavkat. And then the fifth round, again, I think the corner for Ian did tell him you probably need to finish in the fifth round. And he did very well, by the way. And he was this close, as I mentioned, this close to getting the submission. Ian really shined here, right? So Shavkat again with the takedown attempt. Ian swung around, took Shavkat's back, and in with the body triangle. He was this close to cinching in the rear naked choke or the face crank, whatever it was. He was this close, but Shavkat just managed to be resilient and he got out of it. My butt was clenched in this exchange. That was so tense for me, and I thought, holy shit, Ian's going to get it done. Ian's going to submit Shavkat. He's going to do what no one could bloody do. Could you have imagined if Ian Garry submitted Shavkat, not just beat him by unanimous decision, but freaking submitted him in the last round when he was losing and he was down 3-1? That would have been insane. The roof on that place would have freaking blew off, and nobody could have denied Ian Garry at that stage. He was this close, this bloody close. He clearly won that round, but it wasn't enough to win overall. 3-2 rounds. Shavkat Rakhmonov wins. Clearly, Shavkat's going to be fighting Belal Muhammad. He was meant to fight Belal. Belal got the toe infection, and then they did this very awkward face-off in the ring after that. Clearly, they have a lot of respect for each other. Obviously, the language barrier is a bit hard to talk trash and whatever, but clearly they're going to be fighting next. But again, with Ian, a lot of respect for him for taking on this fight, for doing as well as he did, and for stifling again a lot of the offense that Shavkat likes to throw. Couldn't do the takedowns, couldn't work his own submission game, and striking wise, Ian, in all honesty, was doing a bit better. So I think Ian is still right up there. A lot of respect for him. He should probably fight. I don't think Colby's ever going to fight Ian for whatever reason. Like, suddenly he comes out to fight Joaquin Buckley, even though Ian wanted to fight Colby initially. So what the hell happened there? I don't know. Maybe he fights the winner of Colby and Buckley. JDM, I think, is probably going to fight Kamaru. That just seems like where it's going. Sean Brady's probably going to fight the likes of Leon Edwards. I think they're going to be fighting in the UK. So in my mind, Ian should probably fight either Colby or Buckley, whoever wins, or maybe even whoever loses. It just depends, because if Colby wins, I don't think Colby's going to want to fight Ian. If Buckley wins, easy. Have Buckley fight Ian Garry. Some people might believe he should fight further up the rankings. I don't disagree with that, but technically he still did lose. So it's a hard one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Third fight. I'm so pissed off about this. Genuinely, man, like, this fight pissed me off. I was shocked by the result. I'd already written in my notes that I have here, Alexander Volkov defeats Ciryl Gane by unanimous decision. I was that confident that was going to be the result, but no, Gane defeats Volkov by split decision. What the hell are we talking about? What the hell are we doing? I'm going to just focus on the second round, because that was clearly the controversial round. Round 1, it went to Gane. He had the 2 submission attempts. That was clear. Round 3, all judges believe that Volkov won it. It was a low output round, but Volkov had the more control, more dominant position. Similar significant strikes, but Volkov, I think, did a little bit better in the third round, and everyone agreed. Volkov won the third round, all right? It was the second round that was the most controversial one. And I had to rewatch it again because I believed so vehemently that Volkov won that second round. And then if he won the third, obviously he would win the fight. That's why I was so confident that he was going to win that fight. But 2 of the 3 judges believe that Gane won the second round. So let's break this down. I watched it again. In the beginning, Volkov had a nice flurry and a nice combo in the beginning. He was backing Gane up. Tick to Volkov. Volkov landed that nasty spinning back fist and body kick. Now, the back fist didn't wobble Gane, but it was still a very damaging strike. Probably the most damaging strike of the round. And it's what I was talking about in my predictions video. Volkov has significantly improved in recent times, especially when it comes to his aggression. He was moving forward. He was using great high kicks, great body kicks, utilizing his range. I think it was because Gane might have had a broken toe after his first kick. That was what he said anyways. But he was stifling Gane's usual quickness and athleticism and the quick jabs that he throws. Volkov was just all over that, especially in the beginning of that second round. So there were, again, nice body kicks, a big straight right, a few big straight rights, in fact. Now, Gane was landing. It was still a competitive round. He landed a big right overhand, his quick jabs like he likes to do. There was also an uppercut at one stage. But I just thought Volkov was tagging Gane a little bit more and landing the bigger shots. And then Gane connected with a nice left-right combo. Again, it was competitive, but I believe in that exchange, Volkov also countered, so he landed one of his own. And then Gane took Volkov down, but Volkov was holding in the guillotine attempt. Now, I think it was given to him as a submission. Probably wasn't the closest submission in the world, but technically it was a submission attempt. It was effective striking. So that's another tick in Volkov's book. So overall, it was a competitive round. It was a close round. In fact, it was 27 to 25 significant strikes in Gane's favor. But I believed Volkov's strikes were more damaging. It was more effective striking than Gane's effective striking. And ultimately, that's what the judging criteria is. A lot of Gane's significant strikes, when you count them like that, they were just like little piddly low leg kicks. Go rewatch that round. I'm telling you right now, a lot of those significant strikes that I believe were added up were a lot of Gane's like tiny little leg kicks compared to Volkov's huge body kicks. And I believe that Volkov's strikes were better. They were absolutely better. It's not about volume. It's not 27 to 25, therefore he wins. That's why Sean Strickland has lost fights. Like, it's who did the most effective damage, the effective striking, regardless of the volume. Yes, if the volume's here and the other fighter's here, even though these punches might have been better, yes, this fighter's going to win. But when it's that close, you've got to see which were the better punches and the better strikes. And it was absolutely Volkov, in my opinion. In my mind, this was highway robbery. And I don't like to use that phrase often, that word. I don't like saying fights are robbery. I don't believe the Movsar versus Aljamain fight was a robbery, mind you. But this one, if there was any fight that could be defined as a robbery, this was absolutely the fight. Volkov beat Gane. Even Gane at the end knew that he bloody lost. He walked out the cage. He didn't want to do his post-fight interview. And then he had to save face and say, yeah, it was a good fight or whatever. But clearly it was bullcrap. And also Dana was talking to Volkov afterwards, probably saying something along the lines of, I believed you won. Don't worry. We'll take care of you. There is no way that Gane deserves to fight the winner of Aspinall and Jones. No way. He does not deserve to be there. He did not look good. If anything, he looked worse in that fight than he has in previous fights, right? And he fought, who did he fight last time? Spivak? Yeah, he beat Spivak, but who's Spivak in the heavyweight division? The heavyweight division is in all sorts, brother. It's in all sorts. I don't like where it's at. Volkov should have won because then it would have put him in a nice position to fight either, again, Aspinall or Jones, whoever wins or loses from that. But what do you do now, right? So obviously Aspinall versus Jones has to be the fight. If for whatever reason they can't get that fight done and Jones doesn't want to fight or he's asking for too much money or whatever, they're probably going to do Aspinall versus Gane. This is the annoying thing. We all know that Volkov won, but because on paper Gane won, you have to have Aspinall versus Gane. Again, if Jones retires and he doesn't want to fight. And obviously they had a bit of beef as well, so there's something to work of marketing-wise. So I think that's why the UFC is probably going to go with that. But it just leaves Volkov in a crappy position. I don't think it's ruined his career or anything. I saw some comments like that. But have Volkov fight someone like Blades. I believe Volkov has lost to Blades previously. So it would be a good fight to have. Both of them technically coming off for losses. Blades got beaten by Aspinall. Volkov technically got beaten by Gane, even though he didn't. I think that would be a very, very good fight. Very high-level fight. And if Volkov wins that, he's right back in the picture. In my mind, if Volkov and Blades can fight soon-ish, especially because Gane seems to have that injury. If they can fight soonish and Volkov wins, that puts him right back in the picture to fight the winner of Aspinall versus Jones. In my opinion, that's how I would do it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The next fight, bloody hell, this should not have been on the main card. You know what? Kron Gracie should not be in the UFC in general. Bryce Mitchell KOs Kron Gracie. Kron Gracie is absolute ass, brother. It's his ass, and I feel bad saying that because he has the legacy of the Gracie name. They did a lot for MMA. But he is terrible. He is just terrible. Fantastic jiu-jitsu. He was getting close to submitting Bryce Mitchell, right? What was it? It was the armbar. That was his one shining light in this entire fight. All he kept bloody doing is jumping into guard and going on his back and fighting off his back. Annoyed me. It just kept pissing me off. I remember there was one time where it was the second or the third time where he again jumped into full guard and went onto his back, and everyone in the arena just kind of sighed, and the commentators just sighed. This was a horrible fight. Kron can't strike whatsoever. He's like doing punches like this, look terrible. And then again, Mitchell was also out grappling him aside from that one exchange where it was the armbar attempt. This fight pissed me off. It's Aljo versus Movsar should have been in this spot 100%. But then in round 3, again, Kron jumps into the guard and then he gets slept with that nasty elbow. I don't like Bryce Mitchell as a person. He's a little bit weird, but I'm just glad he knocked him out. He deserved to win that fight. Bryce Mitchell is a good fighter. You can't deny it. And I'm glad to see him win over someone like Gracie because he just kick him out of the UFC. He's not good whatsoever. He's had 2 really awful fights now in a row. But this was a good fight. Choi against Nate Landwehr. TKOs him. Choi destroyed Nate, man. He absolutely messed him up. First round, technically, he was way more proficient, and he was deadly with his strikes. He was level changing, working the body, cracking him, low calf kicks, uppercuts, short left hooks. He was piecing up Nate Landwehr 10-9, 40-9 significant strikes. I wouldn't call it a 10-8, to be honest. Maybe some people would argue that, but clearly Choi won the first round. Second round, Nate was doing a little bit better. He was striking a little bit more, but Choi just kept giving it to him with precise technical striking. And then he did that beautiful foot sweep to take Nate down into the side control, was flattening him out. Wasn't really in a position to submit him, but still was grappling with him well. Nate did get up, but then again, Choi took him down. So he clearly won the second round. And then in the third round, man, he eventually got him to the crucifix position and just kept brutalizing him with elbows and strikes. Good call to stop the fight at that stage. Choi destroyed Nate Landwehr. And I believe that Landwehr was actually the fight favorite heading into this fight. Choi looked on a whole nother level. He looked incredibly impressive. So really nice showing. I loved this fight. So that was the main card. So even though my energy a little bit was sucked out when it came to the Gane and Volkov fight, that kind of annoyed me. And of course, the Bryce Mitchell and Kron Gracie fight, I still enjoyed the second half of the Shavkat versus Ian fight because the first couple of rounds were a little bit boring with a lot of clinching. The main event was obviously great. So it was an okay main card overall, but then we had some fun fights on the prelims too. So Dominick Reyes defeats Anthony Smith via TKO. This was a hard watch, bro. This was a hard watch. The first round started off somewhat competitive, but then eventually, I don't know, like, did he get tired or his head wasn't in it? I know that he had a friend and a coach pass away recently, and I do want to share my condolences on that. But Anthony Smith just didn't seem to have his head in this fight, you know? There was a point in the first round where he got clipped a little bit with some big lefts from Reyes, and then he just kept getting tagged with jabs and he had his hands low and he was like welcoming the strikes from Reyes. It was really weird. He wasn't defending whatsoever, kept his hands low, ate a bunch of shots. It was 48-21 significant strikes in the first round. So again, he started off that round decently well. He was throwing offense, but then he ended it poorly. So first round was 10-9 to Reyes. That second round, man, domination. That was very, very hard to watch. And this made me like want Anthony Smith to retire because I didn't like seeing him in that position. It was domination. Legitimately, this is not a BS statistic. 73-0 significant strikes in Reyes' favor, and the round didn't even end. It was complete domination. Smith went for that single leg, trying to, I guess, take Reyes down, and then Reyes just landed elbow after elbow and hammer fist, clubbing Smith. It was just nasty. I believe that the fight could have been ended a little bit earlier. Smith was not even defending. More elbows, more hammer fists. He went into a fetal position. He just accepted that he was losing that fight and the fight was stopped. That was bad. I didn't enjoy watching that. I'm very happy for Dominick Reyes, don't get me wrong. Now he's had 2 really nice stoppage finishes in his last 2 fights, especially after that bad spell that he had. It's really nice to see him back on top. He could easily fight the likes of Nikita Krylov. I believe his fight was cancelled recently. He could fight Krylov. He could fight Johnny Walker. I think that would be a fun fight. But Anthony Smith probably does need to retire, unfortunately. Next fight, Vicente Luque submits Themba Gorimbo. That was brutal. That anaconda choke, he just choked him out unconscious. Themba went out cold. The cameraman did him dirty. His eyes are rolling back in the back of his head. That was nasty, but good to see Vicente Luque back on top. But let's talk about Movsar against Aljamain Sterling. There were other, I'm not going to go into all the other fights. Brian Battle defeated Randy Brown via split decision. I know that was controversial. Eric Anders defeated Chris Weidman via TKO. Weidman wasn't doing bad. There was a point where I think he dropped Anders, but then it was stopped in round 2. I questioned the stoppage because he was actually defending himself at the moment that it was stopped, but he did take a lot of punishment. It was 51-3 significant strikes in the second round. So I get why it was stopped, but at that exact moment, it definitely did look weird. Joshua Van defeated Cody Durden via unanimous decision. Chiesa submitted Max Griffin with the really deep rear naked choke. Chase Hooper with a very nice armbar against Clay Guida, wins by submission in the first round. Kennedy Nzechukwu, I keep mispronouncing that, defeats Lucas Dresky via TKO in the first round. That was also very nice to see. But I do want to end this on the Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain fight, because another controversial fight. It was a very, very close fight, right? But there's a lot of discussion and talk that has to be had here about how the hell we judge fights in the UFC. All right, because these are probably the most difficult fights to judge when there's a lot of control time and not much damage. These are the fights where people just can't seem to agree. A lot of people online I saw thought that Aljamain Sterling won this fight, right? I believed Movsar won. And it came down to the third round. First round was definitely Aljo. Second round was definitely Movsar. No denying that, right? Let's just focus on the third round because that was definitely the controversial one. Again, I rewatched it to try and see if my mind would change, because in the moment I still thought Movsar won that fight because he won the third round. But I rewatched it again to see if my opinion would change. Start of the third round. Both started off trading nicely. Movsar was swinging with he swung with a spinning back fist, but Aljo managed to level change, went into the takedown. Very, very nice. Aljo kept Movsar against the cage for a bit, then slammed him down. That looked very good. He had Movsar's back, but there wasn't a lot of damage. There was a lot of control with that exchange in the third round. But Aljo was just not throwing much. And this is the biggest slight that I have against Aljo. I really like Aljo as a guy, as a fighter, fantastic wrestler, fantastic grappler, but he doesn't throw enough. So when he has fights, like his previous fight, where he's doing all the control, because control is still a judging criteria, it's the lowest priority, but it's still a judging criteria. So when there are rounds and fights where he does all the control, he doesn't need to throw any offense, because if there's no offense, you have to go off of control, and obviously Aljo will win that round. The problem is when he doesn't have all the control and still doesn't throw offense. That's what makes the fights in the rounds very, very hard to judge. So yes, he had most of the control in that third round, 2 minutes and 39 seconds compared to Movsar's 1 minute and 49, but he barely threw any offense, any ground and pound, whatever, no submission attempts in that third round. It was purely just control. And then we got to the moment where Movsar reversed. It was a beautiful reversal, and he had Aljo in full guard. Aljo had to get up at that stage because it's never a good look to end a fight on your back, right? Especially when it's a close fight. But he needed to get up from that position. And Movsar, opposite to what I was saying about Aljo, he was throwing strikes. Not only did he have the position, he had the control, he was throwing some offense. It wasn't all that significant, but he was keeping more busy than Aljo. And then Movsar dragged Aljo back down again. He was more aggressive when he was controlling. He kept more active with the strikes. So I believe that Movsar won the third round 10-9, right? So though Sterling had more control time, Movsar, in my opinion, was more aggressive with the controlling and had slightly more damage with the strikes. And this is what we need to mention now when it comes to the judging criteria. Number one, effective striking. That means, and not just volume as we talked about before, but it's damage, effective striking, next to effective grappling. And effective grappling, moving into advantageous positions, trying to cinch in submissions. Those are the two most important when it comes to judging criteria. When you don't have that, which we pretty much didn't have in this entire fight, but including that third round, because there was barely any striking. I think it was like 4 to 4 significant strikes. So it was equal in that third round. So it was quite equal with the striking. Again, when it comes to the effective grappling, Neither of them really tried to do any submission. So you have to go next down on the list when it comes to the judging criteria. And that is aggressiveness, effective aggressiveness. And absolutely, Movsar was being more aggressive in that third round. Even though Aljo had slightly more control time, that's not as important as effective aggressiveness. Movsar looked more aggressive. He was trying to throw more offense. So that, in my opinion, trumps the slightly more control time that Aljo had. Because then when you go to the next judging criteria, then it's control. Octagon control is a consideration, but it's the last bloody thing. If nothing else applies or if everything else is very, very close, then you go to control. But in my opinion, because Movsar was more aggressive and he was trying to throw more, and visually it looked better what he was doing, that's why he won the fight. And in my mind, like Aljo is, again, he needs to throw more offense when he's controlling those positions. Because if he can't keep the control for the whole round, he's going to lose. He's going to lose when it's that close. And I don't believe it was a robbery in Movsar's favor. I thought it was maybe not like a clear win, but I still thought Movsar won that third round. I thought he won overall. And I don't know, is it disrespect because he's from Ingushetia and he's Russian? I don't know, man. I don't know, like, why people have this thing against Movsar. He had a very fun fight against Arnold Allen. He looked really good against Diego Lopez, and he beat a previous champion in the form of Aljamain Sterling. In my mind, he does deserve to be in the title consideration when it comes to fighting, whatever they do in the division. Obviously, Volkanovski is going to have to fight Ilia Topuria. We know that's going to be happening. Volkanovski has said several times that he's going to be fighting Topuria next. That's going to happen sometime next year. So that's the fight that's going to happen. But then you got Diego Lopez, and then you got Movsar Evloev. Movsar has defeated Diego Lopez. Yes, it was Diego's debut, but he defeated him. Competitive fight. Yes, he almost got submitted in that first round, but overall, he won. And then he defeated Arnold Allen, and then he defeated Aljamain Sterling. So, if anything, they probably need to do a rematch between them two to find out who's the number one contender. That's how I would do it. Ilia versus Alex, Movsar versus Diego Lopez. Let them run him back. Diego Lopez clearly has improved. Incredible previous fight. Clearly has improved. He had I think it was short notice as well, but he had a short notice debut against Movsar. He obviously lost, but he's improved since then. He's had some great victories. In my mind, that is the fight to make. Find out who is the true number one contender. So that would be my opinion. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I know I've blabbered on in this video, but there was so much to talk about in this card. Let me know your thoughts. And until next time, this has been Johnny. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the podcast episode, hopefully tomorrow. Take care, guys.